Dollar. Dirty money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my problems. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yep, what's good, original crew, man? We're back. Hey, man, we're back with another Riding Mango this week. Oh, get over here, boy. Get out that frame. Back on the channel, man. Today's video, Korean no-face billionaire mysteriously linked to pile of 32 dead people in attic. That's a lot of dead people, bro. 32 dead bodies? That don't make no sense, man. Hey, make sure y'all check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go. If you want to first support, all you got to do is check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video,
like it with a thumbs up.
Hey, let's get into this. Let's check this out. Let's see what's about. You ready? All right, let's go.
Bada bing, bada bing.
June of 2014, something very, very strange happened in South Korea. A man without a home was found dead in an apricot orchard. He's wearing an Italian-made jacket, like a suit jacket, a very nice jacket. He was found outside this orchard of apricots with this book next to him, an empty bottle of shark liver oil, which is commonly used as a health supplement in South Korea. Well, not commonly, just sometimes.
Oh, it's like the fish oil pills?
Yeah, but it's like shark liver. It's not recommended. Most people don't use it, but it's kind of in like a niche health sphere. People use it. Along with several empty bottles of alcohol nearby him, just dead in this apricot field. The fact that his body was so badly decomposed and the way that he was found, there were rumors that he was so decomposed that his head was separated from the rest of the body. Now, the police said that they were pretty certain that they were dealing with a man that was without a home. But once they ran some tests, they realized they could not have been more wrong. The dead body in the orchard belonged to a billionaire. But not just any billionaire, the nation's most wanted man. There was currently a $50,000 reward for anyone who knew even just information about this billionaire's whereabouts. And this apricot field was just 1.5 miles away from his holiday home. So it makes sense. It's the billionaire, right? But the authorities said, no. We searched inside his holiday home. We found 2 suitcases filled with cash that totaled to about $1 million USD. Both were hidden behind a fake wall that led into a panic room. He must have hidden here while we were searching the place a week prior, and that makes sense, but it doesn't make any sense why he was dead. Did he take his life? Was he killed? Was there foul play? His death was so mysterious, it led conspiracy theorists to believe that he was still alive. Maybe he faked his death. Maybe this was a decoy body in place of the billionaire, and that billionaire is out on the run. I mean, if money can buy freedom, he's got all the money in the world. And as mysterious as his death is, his life was even more mysterious, if you can believe it. This billionaire was known as the billionaire without a face in South Korea. He was incredibly elusive, reclusive, incredibly private, but he held art exhibits all around the world at places like the Louvre. He had a gala thrown in his honor at the Palace of Versailles. He had his art displayed at the Grand Central Terminal in New York City. He was connected to some of the biggest politicians, government officials, business owners, and at one point, he owned the domain www.god.com.
Wow.
And yet, not many people knew his name. See, you know what this reminds me of? Where people are like, you think Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk run the world? There's a whole set of billionaires we probably don't even know exist that are not in the public eye, that CNN and Fox don't write about. And those are the people that are making moves. This is kind of reminiscent of that. Nobody really knew his name. Nobody really even talked about him. He fell under the radar up until his death. But it seemed like he was connected to a lot of dark stuff. Firstly, he founded a church that is accused of being a cult. He was connected to 2 of the biggest tragedies in South Korean modern history. One from a few decades ago, where 32 bodies were found dead and tangled in an attic, just tied up together. And more recently, the billionaire was connected to the company that owned this Haewol ferry. The boat that sank, killing over 300 people at the very least. I mean, directly and indirectly. And he was actually on the run from being investigated because of this Haewol ferry incident when he was found mysteriously dead.
Okay.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the first tragedy, the 32 bodies in the attic. But on Wednesday's episode, this upcoming main episode, we're going to do a deep dive onto this Haewar Ferry tragedy. And with these 2 episodes, you're going to see how one billionaire was suspiciously, mysteriously linked to both cases of mass death. I mean, it feels straight out of one of those crazy conspiracy horror movies or no sleep stories, but it really happened.
And I know a lot of people want us to do the ferry. We've already heard the story before on different things. Spoke on that before.
Full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. But one source for this case was the Netflix documentary that we also used for the JMS cult. It's called In the Name of God. Now, it's the 5 Oceans episode, and you can tell throughout the entirety of the episode that Netflix is hinting at stuff. They're hinting at a lot of connections between the 5 Oceans incident and the billionaire, but they never really flat out say what that connection is, probably for the reason that I'm about to read you a legal disclaimer, okay? For legal reasons, I have been advised to say that before we get started, 2 things to remember. Yoo Byung-eun, the billionaire in today's case, is not the de facto owner of this Haewar Ferry. He's connected in certain ways, but he is not the de facto CEO and owner. And the Evangelical Baptist Church, which was created by this billionaire, is not legally connected to the 5 Oceans tragedy, the 32 bodies in the attic that we're going to be discussing today. Even if we make any sort of connections between these 2 entities or these 2 people, does not mean that it's an insinuation of liability and guilt or otherwise. Which also leads me to say, if anything happens to me, I'm kidding, but I'm only half kidding because I talked to my parents about this family, this billionaire family, and my dad was like, yeah, they're really scary. Good luck. Goodbye. And he hung up on me. I'm like, they're not listening to my calls, Dad. Like, that's,
Wow.
Maybe they are. Yeah. Because they're an international family.
Well, your dad really loves you, huh?
Yeah, he has no care in the world for me. He's like got 2 grandkids. I'm like the least of his worries now. So let's get started before I get more white hairs on this head. The 5 Oceans incident. August 29th in 1987. So we're going back, but trust me, it's all going to come back together to 2014. And I would not be discussing this case if it wasn't related to what's going to be talked about on Wednesday. August 29th of 1987. It was an incredibly rainy day. A homicide detective by the name of Detective Sam gets a call to head to this tiny little factory out near the mountains. He wasn't really told what was going on. Nobody was like, you need to get over here. We've got 32 bodies in an attic. He's just told, rush through the rain. I don't care what it takes. You get here ASAP. So he drives through the rain, he's got his sirens on, and he knows that the factory is belonging to a company called Odeyang, otherwise translated to 5 Oceans. So I'm going to be calling them the 5 Oceans Company. Now, when the officer steps inside this factory, all the lights are off. It's like almost an abandoned factory. It doesn't look like it's being used anymore. He notices that there's a bunch of people gathered, other detectives that were closer to the scene. There's reporters gathered. There's news footage of this that is constantly, I would not post it on here because I don't think it's appropriate, but there's a lot of crazy news footage and it's in the Netflix doc, and you can even hear one of the reporters saying, I mean, there's no way we're going to air this anyway. It's that bad.
The scene?
Yeah. So there's news cameras everywhere, news anchors. I mean, just a mess. He notices that the ceiling, so he's in the factory cafeteria, and he notices that the ceiling has already started to be disassembled. There's workers there taking apart the ceiling so that they can have this giant hole. And he's like, why do we need a giant hole? What's going on? There's this ladder leading up to this hole. So he grabs a flashlight and he starts climbing up this ladder because he's the head detective of this case now. He pokes his head through the ceiling into the attic, and it's just one big open space. It's not big, it's not tall, it's not furnished, it's unfinished. It's what you imagine an attic would look like. And he shines his flashlight around. And he said in his decades of being an officer, even after this case, he had never seen anything like that. He pans his flashlight and he sees 32 bodies, all dead, all stacked up on top of each other, tangled apart, like just, it was very, very unsettling. the site wasn't just this pile of bodies. It wasn't like this dumping ground with a mountain of bodies. He said it felt almost methodical in a sense, which made it even more unsettling. There were two piles of bodies that were kind of diagonal from each other. So one pile of bodies here with like 12 people, another pile with 19 bodies. And then in the center, almost directly in the center of these two diagonal piles, was a man hanging from the ceiling. There was a rope around his neck. It's just, the whole thing is strange. Everyone had their wrists and ankles tied. Their nostrils and mouths were stuffed with some sort of cotton or toilet paper. In total, it was 4 men, 28 women, and a total of 32 people dead in this attic. I mean, this is the biggest mystery that South Korea had seen in, I don't know how long. Like, how do 32 people die in one place at the same time? There was no natural disaster. It wasn't some sort of disease, no fire, no earthquake. It just doesn't even make sense. The detective said the one thing that kept getting to him throughout the entire investigation is, how do 32 people lay there next to each other, hear their neighbor dying, they themselves are dying, nobody tries to stop it? All 32 people just let it happen is kind of how the scene was set up. He doesn't understand. So more puzzling is the man in the center of the attic was hanging from his neck, but the mysterious part was he was on his knees. The attic ceiling is not that tall, so you could presume that he died by hanging himself, but he was on his knees, so he could have just stood up. So he chose not to stand up.
Which is pretty rare, right?
Yes. So he's saying even though, let's say you make the decision to, you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. But even in the last moments, typically people might freak out and their self-preservation kicks in, their survival mode kicks in. And he was on his knees. He could have just stood up. He's saying that's very, very uncommon. So the main question that investigators had was, I mean, of course, what everyone was thinking, is this a mass? Is this some sort of murder event that happened? Or is this just mass murder? Did someone kill these 32 people and the killers are on the run right now? Because that's a whole different type of investigation. So they're trying to figure out, who are these people? Would someone out there even want these people dead? And all of these answers lies in one person, one woman amongst the 32. It was a 48-year-old woman by the name of Park Sun-ja. We're going to call her Park. She's at the center of this case. She is the one person in that attic that every single other 31 people are connected to. She is the middle of the web.
Is she the one hanging?
No.
Oh, she's not hanging. She's in the pile?
Yes, a man was hanging. He worked in the factory. He was the factory manager, was hanging. She's just in one of the piles. What makes it even stranger is that all three of her kids, were in the attic and dead. The only person that survived from her family was her husband, who was not in that attic.
Did they find the husband immediately then?
Oh, yeah. And he's saying, I'm a victim. My whole family died, so why are you guys questioning me? I'm telling you, this gets very, very thick and crazy, and I need you to understand the whole event before we get into the ties with the billionaire, because it's so unexpected. You're going to listen to this, think, oh, this sounds like a cult story, but trust me, I never even knew where this was going. So she's found dead in the attic along with her 3 kids. The police immediately start investigating her because she is the special link amongst all of them. So let's dig into Park Sun-ja and a little note left behind. Now, these are the only clues that the police have initially, is Park Sun-ja, the woman in the center, and a little torn note. So there were torn pieces of paper all over the attic, just as if someone ripped it apart and threw it around. So they picked up each one, they went back to the station, they start piecing it together, and it's a note. There's writing on the front and the back, and the most important part reads, keep your mouth shut. She's already unconscious. 5 people died in only 4 hours. Just stay quiet. I planned this out. Endure it with his guidance. I think everyone will die today. What kind of note is that? I mean, so strange. There's actually another note that's found, but we're going to discuss that later. So who is Park and what is this whole event? Park is a CEO of a massive company in the local area of Daejeon. Now, when this whole case starts unfolding, it actually started with an investigation from the police, an investigation of fraud. So this couple comes into the police station like a week before the bodies are found. And this couple, they look beat up. They've got bruises, scratches. I mean, they've got a busted lip, a black eye. And they sit down and they tell the police, you'll never believe what happened. So there's this company. I'm sure you've heard of them. Odaeang, the Five Oceans company. So they're a trading company, which means you can invest with them. And it's like a an investment firm. You invest with them, they promise you returns and you get your money back and it's this whole thing. And I trusted them. So I invested $500,000 of my money, my whole life savings, right, officer? Now, I was promised 40% returns. 40%, which is insane. If you hear anyone in the investment world promising you 40% returns,
It's a Ponzi scheme.
yeah, you better run the other way and call the cops because something very, very shady is going on. So he's saying, me and my wife, we invested $500K. We were expecting 40%. We got $0. Nothing came back. So we're like, well, we need our life savings back. This feels like a scam. We go to Odeyang, this very professional compound. You know, they've got office buildings. All the employees are everywhere. It's like a factory. We go in. We're like, can we talk to the CEO? We sit down with her and we say, listen, we love what you're doing, but, you know, we got to pay the bills. Can we get our money back? Park Soon-ja looks at them, calls like 7 employees over, and they beat the couple an inch of their life. Not only do they beat them, but in the end, they force them to sign a waiver, basically forfeiting their rights to their $500,000 initial investment plus the returns that they were promised, saying that all debt has been cleared, that they just gave Five Oceans this money for funsies. So they're like, look at this. I was forced to sign this. Look at the state of my face. They ran to the police station immediately when they were released from Odeyang, and the police decided to open a formal investigation into this company. And they were pretty surprised to find out that this company was a reputable company. I think that they were expecting some sham company. Like, one look at it, you're like, that's a scam. How do they not know? This company was well known in the Daejeon area as a very decent, excellent-sized craft business. So they have one department of their company is the trading business, like the investment business. But the main side of their company, well, they say, is their craft business. So they've got factories in Daejeon and they have all these employees who make these traditional Korean pieces of knickknacks. Sometimes it's jewelry boxes. Sometimes it's, you know, like wooden toys. And it's almost like a souvenir company. They sell it to tourists who want to take home a piece of historical Korea with them. So people freaking love them. In fact, Odeyang was known as one of the best companies in the area. They constantly won awards for their craftsmanship, for their business practices. I mean, they were killing it. On top of that, the CEO, Park Soon-ja, the one that was found in the attic, she was called the mother of orphans. How do you even get a nickname like that, okay? How do you even get a nickname like that? She's like one of those tech billionaire scam artists. Like, that's the vibe that she gives me. The way that she set up her company was she wanted to be all about the employees. So she set up all these dorms, these living quarters near her factory, on the grounds of her factory, like right next to the factory. You are welcome to live there as my employee. You and your whole family can live here for free. I want you to just focus on work and not stress about bills. I provide food. I provide housing. You can move in. You can bring your children. You know why you can bring your children? Because while you're working, we've got this massive children's compound where we teach your kids, we house them, we feed them, we do dance lessons with them. We have all these extracurricular activities with them. And you know what? We even have a ton of orphans in there. I love orphans. That was like her shtick, okay? She's like, I love orphans. I want to help orphans. Anytime she was in any sort of interview, she played the whole, I'm rich, okay? I'm rich. I'm a CEO of Odeyang. My husband is a government official. We're very wealthy, but I don't care about money. Because she's like such a pick-me. She says, I don't care about money or stocks or fashion or jewelry or cars. I just care about giving back. There's this one interview where she tries to force a tear out. And she says, I just don't want to live in a world where children have to worry about where their next meal comes from. How can I wear nice things when there are kids out there who can't even afford water, food, textbook? So everyone is like, oh my God, Odeyang is like the nicest company ever. And the CEO is like the mother of orphans. She's amazing. I want to work for this company. Look at how she treats her employees. She was praised by the locals as being a great businesswoman. She would even have people come in and film the factory, and you would see all these factory workers that were making all these little knickknacks. You would see the orphans singing and dancing and being like, I love Mrs. Park, right? Well, guess what? You guessed it. It was all a scam. The whole thing was a freaking scam. So from the get-go, these employees were not even being paid. These were free laborers. You're like, why would they work for free?
That's the reason why she had the housing.
Y'all can come. I'll feed you. I'll
Yeah.
house you.
And then her eyes
get
is,
this?
well, you're getting all this for free.
You don't have any bills, so why should I pay you?
We provide schooling for your kids. We provide housing, food.
What more?
You and your family are here for free, so why should we pay you?
That's crazy.
And that's how she continues to be rich.
That is insane, bro.
Park Sun-ja was a very manipulative, cunning woman. So most of these employees worked for free. When they lived on the grounds, they said it was very, very strange because they weren't even allowed to talk to each other. You work for Odeang, I'm your wife. We're not allowed to talk to each other. It's so strange. She would separate couples. She would separate the kids from her employees, the families. She would throw them into the little orphan dorms, I guess. And she would even go on TV and be like, look at this orphan. Orphan, what's your name? Tell them you're an orphan and tell them what your name is. So the kid would be like, my name is Stephanie. And the parents would be watching on TV like, wait, I'm an employee and that's my kid. And why is my kid on TV acting like she's an orphan right now? And why is Park telling her to tell the world that she's an orphan? I'm her mom. What's going on right now? So all of these things will later come out, but at the time, nobody knew. The locals are just looking at her like, she's bringing business to our community. This is great. And when she opened up her trading business, her investment firm, everyone was all about it. Like the locals were all about it. Her employees almost became salespeople. Her employees stopped working in the factory, which, side note, they never worked in the factory because just like how her little orphanage was a scam, her factory was a scam. They were drop shippers before there was drop shipping. All of those Korean knickknacks they said were handmade by these employees were purchased from wholesalers and sold at double the amounts, claiming to be handmade. They were not. So instead of a factory, it was just a warehouse.
A storage unit.
A storage unit. Yeah. And then all those people now looking back at the videos, like the promo videos of all the factory workers making the thing, they're like, you know what? That's true. They're always in the finishing steps where they're just like wiping it off. They're like, we're doing QC, quality control. You know, that's what we're doing right now. That's the step. It's just interesting. But people didn't know that. Locals didn't know it at the time. They heard that Odeang was open for investment, and all these locals are like, I don't know anything about the investment world. I couldn't buy a stock. I just don't know anything. Like, I don't know that world. And now this woman who is praised as being the mother of orphans is saying that not only will she take your money and give you a fat return, a 40% return, but she's saying that all this money is being invested into businesses that give a lot of their profits to orphans and to giving back to the world. It's almost like 3 birds, 1 stone. I mean, you cannot come up with a better investment situation than that. You're helping the world and you're making 40% on your money? Are you kidding me? People start throwing their money at Odeang, and everything was done very professionally. Odeang would even give them these slips, these very official looking slips that said, thank you for your money. You are now a creditor to Odeang. We owe you your initial investment plus interest. So they're like, that's gotta be serious. Odeang at one point had close to $80 million that they brought in investments in this little small area of Daejeon. This is not even like Seoul.
Wow. That's a lot. And this was back in the day.
Yeah, and this is, you know, when you're talking about areas like that, you're not talking about Seoul elites that are just throwing whatever cash they have laying around. You're talking about families' entire savings. Everyone trusted Park Sun-ja, and because her husband was a government worker, her name had a lot of weight to it. But it's like a bank run happened, okay? 1987, around August, the couple goes and asks for their money back. She beats them up. Turns out they're not the only couple that asked for their money back. A whole bunch of people started seeing that they were not getting any returns from Odeang and they wanted to pull out their initial investments. And the walls are coming down on Park. Even the police knew it. The police were like, this is not even a regular, simple fraud case. We're probably going to give this to the feds. Like, we're going to bring in some higher level people for this because it's that bad. So a week before she ends up in the attic, they bring her into the police station to question her. They're like, we just want to ask you questions about your shop and what's going on, you know? And she sits there and they say the police said it's very fascinating. She's called the mother of orphans. And I'm not saying that you can judge a book by its cover, but she just didn't look like the mother of orphans. You know, I don't know what you expect when you see the mother of orphans, but she was very, in Korean we call it like 세게 보여, like 얄밉게 보여. It's very sharp features, very thin, and kind of looks lanky. She's not necessarily tall, but she looks very thin and bony and has such sharp features, and her eyes are so sharp. And they like just pierce through your soul. That's the feeling. And it just didn't feel warm or compassionate. It didn't feel like someone that was like, oh, I'm so sorry, officer. There must be a misunderstanding. Like, what's going on? So the whole time she's sitting there looking at them as if she knows something that they don't know. And the police keep grilling her, and dramatically, out of nowhere, she just faints. The lady just faints. The authorities think that the whole thing was staged, that she was faking it, but for legal reasons, they can't be like, hey, lady, stop faking it. For legal reasons, they got to take her to the hospital. So they take her to the ER, and I don't know, maybe because she's like a 50-year-old woman and she's skinny and frail and looks like an ajumma, they're like, we don't need police guards. We don't need to do that. Well, they did, because she walked right out of the ER and vanished with 80 of her closest associates from the company. They vanished without a single trace. You know what they also vanished with? $18 million of corporate funds. Authorities go to the factory and the dorms of Odaeang, like the main compound, and they start asking around. Everyone that's left over is like, I don't know what you're talking about. They're shrugging their shoulders like, I don't know where she went. I don't know. You don't ask me. Felt like they knew.
Yeah.
So...
But they gotta know something.
Exactly, or like which direction did they go? At least,
there's 80
right?
people.
Exactly,
That's
that's not like one person slips out. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
was so distracted. 80 people. So they get word that Park was found hiding in the attic of one of her more obscure factories near the mountains. The police rush there, and outside they spot a van that also is belonging to Odaeang. So maybe, just maybe, she is in there. She was, but she and 31 others were found dead. And this is when all chaos breaks loose.
Wait, that means what? 50 people got away?
Yeah, so I think that I think she probably left with a certain number of people. I'm sure a big number of the other 50 were just people that were running. They're like, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't know what's going on. I gotta go. So Park could no longer protect her secrets anymore because she was dead. And slowly, all of her secrets start coming out. And that, one of her biggest secrets, is going to connect to the dead billionaire from 2014. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we've touched on the shady business practices of taking in the investor money and promising all these returns, and none of that works, right? But it's alleged that Park's company was just a fake company. It was a front for a religious organization. There were rumors floating around that Park and her employees were not a company. It was a messiah and her followers. This was a church that was parading around as a corporation. Why do people think that? A lot of victims came forward and said, I applied to work at this company and someone recommended that I work here. I thought it was a factory. I start working here and she's going around telling us that she cured her own cancer back in the day by prayer alone, and that she is the Messiah, the conqueror of the 5 oceans, and if we disobey her, we'll all go to hell. And I was like, whoa. I thought this was a 9-to-5 that I was signing up for. What the hell is going on? All the other employees were like deep in it. That's what some of the victims said. These employees were like, yes. And they later found out that some of these employees weren't even getting paid. They weren't even getting paid. They were just free laborers. The victim said, it started to get really weird when she forced us to ask her permission to leave the grounds of the factory. She also had something called sin time, like repentance time to repent for your sins. It happened randomly, probably like once a month. We'd all be gathered in the gym room, almost like a company meeting, but we would be forced to slap each other in the face. Like just sit there and like slap each other around to repent for our sins. It was a lot. She was also had this apocalyptic streak about her. She just really felt like the world was ending. And she felt like everyone needed to obey her to be saved. She also was quoted to say, the factory is heaven. And if you want to go to heaven, you work here for free. Which
That's crazy.
so all these little insinuations of her being a part of a religious cult or being a cult leader start coming out. And the investigators are like, okay, we need to take this into account. And this is when we see 2 very popular theories form of what happened in Odaeang, because to this day, I don't think there's anyone that can say with 100% certainty that they know what happened up there in the attic. That they know what happened to these 32 people. So the first route comes from prosecutors and the police and the formal Justice Department of South Korea. So the investigators had found 100 pieces of cotton and fabric that had been stuffed into the 32 people's mouths in the attic. And everyone assumed that the pieces of fabric would be laced with some sort of toxic chemical or something that wasn't compatible with life. And that is what killed everyone, right? That's what everyone's thinking. But no, they were all clean. There was no sign of any sort of toxic substance, which is very, very odd. I mean, these pieces of fabric were shoved very deeply, even into the nostrils of these 32 people. The autopsies of all 32 people showed that all of them had ligature strangulation marks. They died from manual strangulation, meaning that someone had tied a rope around their neck, tightened it, and started pulling and pulling and pulling until they were no longer alive. It was manual. It's a lot of labor to do that to someone, and it's a very painful way to go.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah.
Takes forever.
Takes
and
forever.
So much struggle and wow.
And there's 32. Now, the prominent theory that the prosecution ran with is that someone in the group or a few people of the group had killed everyone. And these people were not resisting. They were open to it. They were almost waiting in line, waiting for their turn because they're thinking this is some sort of religious event, right? A ritual, a sacrifice of their own lives, if you will. So these few people went around tying the ropes around the others, killing them. And at the very end, probably, they presume, the factory manager was the last one to die. And that's why he hanged himself in the middle of the attic. Now, the theory is that Park Soon-ja had to die because she was $80 million in debt and the creditors were knocking on her door. She's probably going to go to prison. So these followers, they wanted to die with her. But there are reasons that theory it doesn't make sense. And this is the theory that's legally accepted today. There's some contradictions. There's some questions that even the detectives that worked on this case that agree with this theory, that agree with the final, decision, are kind of confused about. So first of all, Park Soon-ja was the first one to die when they looked at time of deaths. This is very unusual. Experts who study religious group killings say, no, absolutely not. Unless the leader dies from an accidental death or natural causes, like they have a terminal illness or old age, they are never the first one to go. Especially in an event like this, they will make sure that everybody else is dead before they themselves die. That doesn't make sense. Another odd detail was that there were 28 women and 4 men. 12 of these women were found with evidence of semen in their bodies. So either they were abused by these 4 men before they passed away, or they voluntarily interacted with men in that attic that has no rooms, is an open floor plan. And this is August in Korea. There was no AC up in that attic. It's like 90 degrees up there.
Whoa.
It just didn't make sense, especially because Park Soon-ja, her 2 sons were in the attic as well as her daughter. And she was found with semen in her body. So would this mother really voluntarily have these activities in front of her own children? Or was this forced upon her? It's very confusing, right?
Yeah, that's suspicious.
Yeah, in addition to all of that, she had hemorrhaging in her skull, indicating that she was either hit on the head with a blunt force object like a hammer, or her head had been smashed into the wall, which is all very, very strange. She also has a lot of markings, like defensive wounds. So she fought until her very last minute, and if she was the first one to go, her followers are just watching her resist all of this with as much energy as she could muster, and they're like, you know what? Keep doing it and we'll go next. Experts that study a lot of religious groups say that just doesn't make sense. But the prosecutors, they're honing in on this. They're like, that's what it was, okay? Religion sometimes doesn't make sense. Well, I don't even want to categorize this as religion, but you get it. These cults don't really make sense, so what can you do? And the reason that the whole scene is so bizarre is because it's probably some sort of ritual or something that's symbolic to this cult that we, from the outside, cannot understand. Now, about a year later after this...
What if the missing 50 took all them? And the reason why she went first is because she was that
case was essentially closed. There was a special committee that was appointed to this case to investigate corruption. And the chairman to that committee was Chairman Kim. And he does not believe that initial theory. He's like, absolutely not. He believes the government just wanted to get this over with as quickly as possible. The government didn't want to overcomplicate things, so they chalked it up to something that the public could at least wrap their heads around, which is a religious cult. Kim believes that all 32 people were murdered, and they were all murdered in a separate location and not in the attic. He thinks the attic was a dumping grounds for 32 bodies. He thinks all 32 people were killed. So the main reason that he brings up is the factory manager, Lee, the one that was found hanging, the one that had allegedly killed everybody else before he killed himself. Kim doesn't believe that this factory worker could have strangled and killed everyone before ending his own life. First of all, Kim argues that for a man to end 31 people's lives, it would have taken at least 5-6 people, and he thinks that's being conservative. The prosecutor, the government, they also say that Lee, the factory manager, he was the one tightening the ropes around everyone. And Kim is saying, even if he's wearing gloves, do you know how much that's going to take a toll on his hands? And there was nothing on his hands. No evidence of swelling that wasn't consistent with decomposition. There was no evidence of abrasions, markings, rope burns, nothing. That's very strange. Another part that really, really brings a lot of people to his theory is that there are different markings around everyone. Technically, you could say that all 32 people died of strangulation. Now, the marks should be different. Everyone else should have different neck marks from the factory manager. Everyone else was strangled by a rope that was tightened around their neck. So that means it would be a full circular ring around their neck. Meanwhile, Lee, the factory manager, was found hanging. That's a very different ligature mark. So they're saying that mark, because you're using the gravity of your body and the weight of your corpse, you have this soft spot in your neck that has a little bit of give. So the rope is naturally going to go up into that soft spot, and it's going to leave almost this triangular shaped rope in the back. So your ligature mark is not going to go all the way around your neck. There's going to be a little bit of gap between your neck and the rope at the top because gravity is pulling your body down.
Yeah, it shouldn't touch in the back. Yeah.
Yes. He had a full ligature mark.
A full circle.
A full circle.
Okay, then somebody else did it.
Yeah. Now, you could argue that maybe someone was choking him or he tried to choke himself in that manner and then it didn't work. So then he hanged himself. But it's just very, very strange. There's too many what ifs or like, oh, here's a weird thing that could have happened. So Kim, the chairman, theorizes that people killed all 32 people, wanted all 32 of them dead for whatever reason, and then brought them up to this attic to stage some sort of mass religious tragedy. He also claims that's why their wrists and their ankles were bound the way that they were bound. Now, Kim argues that if you were tying someone up, okay, let's say you're trying to end someone's life, you're going to tie them up. And when you do, you're going to tie them up really tight. You're going to make sure that they can't wiggle around or get out of these little bounds. But the way that everyone was tied up was loosely with fabric, like blankets almost, and handkerchiefs. He said, you know what it reminds him of? When you, in Korea, we have like these boxes that you tie with like a scarf and you lift it up and you carry it like that. Carry it by the knot. So he's thinking that all these people were killed at a separate location. They had their ankles and their arms bound and people were lifting them up like that into the attic.
I mean, to strangle 32 people, that's going to take a lot of manpower.
Yeah, a lot.
And moving all of them, like, that's like a huge team.
Yeah, and that's why some people debunk his theory and argue for the prosecutor's theory. They're saying that, another thing is, if Kim is arguing that all these bodies were brought into the attic, there's going to be snags and rips on their clothes because even if you're super careful, someone's shirt is going to get caught on like a wood plank. None of them had any sort of crazy tears or signs of wear on their clothes. Another thing that the prosecutors argue is that it took about 6 to 7 officers to bring each body down. Just one body. It's not stairs that you can take into the attic. It's like a ladder. So to get these bodies down, and they're saying it must be harder to get them back up.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Especially if you feel like their life
thinking,
was taken in a different location.
Cause
Like dead weight, I'm thinking like it'll be even more.
what you
heavy.
said, that is dead weight.
Yeah.
Unless you put them on your shoulder,
That's
you
just
would
a
have
lie.
to have a different ladder that could at least fall. Have you ever climbed up an attic ladder?
The
The ones that fold.
Just come down off the the one we had in our
Oh, but some of them they have. But them attic ladders are a little flimsy though.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't know how this attic was, but nothing honestly makes sense to me.
No,
To be real.
But would it make sense that all 50, the other 50 made them? But that's a lot of control though. But it's a lot of people in one attic.
No, but that would have been, I don't know. That doesn't make sense either. And these are just other other people that's just trying to. I don't know.
I don't think that there is one right or wrong answer. That's why I
True.
believe that no one truly is going to know what's going on. Like, no one's going to know the truth of what happened in that attic.
Yeah.
It's just these are the two very popular theories right now. I will say the government is on the theory that it was a religious incident, but it's just very strange. Now, the biggest question that everyone had, though, was before Park Soon-ja died, $18 million of corporate funds vanished. So where did it go? First of all, if corporate funds vanish like that, it doesn't seem like someone who's trying to die anytime soon, right? It sounds like someone who's trying to go on the run.
Mm-hmm.
But where did the $18 million go? Did it go to Park's husband? Where is this going? And where did any of the money go? I mean, was she investing the $80 million into different companies? Like, what's going on? So this is where a massive conspiracy theory comes in. And this is a conspiracy theory, and I need to legally state a conspiracy theory is a theory. Just because you believe something to be true does not make it true. It's just what we've seen people talk about on the internet, and I'm just relaying that information to you. So there is a conspiracy theory that Park was a pawn. Park was not a religious leader. She wasn't even really the CEO of Five Oceans. She was being utilized by someone even more powerful because all of the money that she was getting in, it seemed to be going, and there's transfer funds. There's literally slips of transfers that have been approved. Like, the government has seen this and they're like, yeah, that actually happened between Five Oceans, the company, and a company called Samwoo Trading. Samwoo Trading is owned by Yoo Byung-eun, the billionaire.
So she's sending money to him.
Yes,
And what is he doing?
exactly. And why would she send all that money to him? Why would she risk her life to send him money? Well, a lot of people think it's connected to his church that he started. So we're going to get into the billionaire story now. Yoo Byung-eun is the leader of, well, he was the leader of the Evangelical Baptist Church in South Korea. And I do need to put a disclaimer that this church is massive. I think there's about 100,000 members in this church globally, and there's different sects.
Today?
Yeah, today in 2023.
Okay.
So I feel really good. I feel really safe. I feel really comfortable talking about all this stuff. I'm very scared.
A lot of churches in Korea, huh?
Yeah, there's actually like a whole reason for it. There's actually so many political factors that went into it. Like, Korea was in a state of chaos at one point. It's fascinating. But this church in Korea has a lot of subsects. And a lot of these subsects of churches have no connection with the billionaire, nor do they have connection with him. Like, they broke off and started their own thing. They're like, we don't like this guy. We like our church. We're going to start a new church. So not everyone that's in the Evangelical Baptist Church is bad, nor is it really categorized as a cult. I'm just going to call it an organization for now.